Some may find the following disturbing. Discretion is advised.
Never before in the history of sports podcasts have two men brought you opinion and analysis like these two. They speak for a city that's desperate for wins and titles, not whining and travesty. You might not agree with what they have to say, but you'll defend their right to say it. Sports fans across the world, from Chicago, Illinois, this is the Mac and Reed Show.
What's happening, everybody? Welcome in to another edition of the Mac and Reed Show right here on the Barroom Network. We are streaming live on YouTube right now, and you can check out all our previous shows on Spotify, iTunes, if you want the audio-only versions. Remember to follow us on social media. Follow me at The Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed, and follow the Barroom Network at Barroom Network. Thanks to our boy Aldo for producing and directing. And how are you, fresh off your Schittsburg vacation? What's going on, Mr. Reed?
Is it really a vacation if you go to Pittsburgh? No, I'm just playing. Listen, the people in Pittsburgh, shout out to them. Amazing hospitality. The stadium is top 3 I've ever been in my life. PNC Park. They were great people there. So I appreciated my time there in Pittsburgh. I didn't think I was going to have as much fun as I did. There
you go. Checked out the Clemente Museum, Baseball Museum, and all that. Did all the things.
Yep.
You. Some good weather too. Excellent. Well, we have a lot to get to on the show today. We're talking Bears to lead off the show as we're 2 weeks away from the draft. We'll talk about, of course, a potential trade. Maybe all these mocks are getting crazy, and stock up, stock down on the offensive lineman. If you follow Ross on Twitter, there's been some movement as far as that goes. And any other news in the draft, I know that there was 17 guys confirmed, players, young men confirmed to go to the draft in Kansas City. Jalen Carter being one of them, and 4 quarterbacks. All the top quarterbacks are going to be there. So like, subscribe, tell a friend or two. Remember, you can chime in on the comments as well, as we'll be talking about the NBA at length as well midway through the show. The Bulls pulling out a thriller, the 10 seed in the play-in game, beating the Raptors. We'll dive into that and how nuts of a comeback that was, and talk about the rest of these play-in games that have been pretty good, and previews for the rest of the playoffs that'll start up later this weekend. I love this time of year. We got a lot going on with the NBA playoffs and baseball here, and we got our fake summer in Chicago. Surprises along the way, and it's our 1-year anniversary on the Barroom Network. Look at us. Who'd have thought? How about it? Oh, you're too kind. Too kind.
What's the 1-year anniversary? Is it wood?
Excuse me?
You heard what I said. It's the 1-year anniversary gift.
Well, you're giving me wood?
Nope. That's for somebody else in your life.
That's it. I'm out of here. What the fuck are you talking about, Ross? Find yourself.
It's anniversaries by year. So they have a certain year. You get like certain things. I'm looking it up right now. I mean, nobody abides by this stuff anymore, but it certain themes for certain anniversaries. You're about to have a 1-year anniversaries in like few months down the road. You should know these things by now.
Well, this is good to know. What is wood? You don't take them out to dinner. You give them a piece of wood.
You're supposed to give them. Yeah, absolutely.
What kind of wood? Sandalwood? Driftwood?
Oh, no, maybe it's paper. I'll find it.
Aldo, we're gonna need you to chime in as well. I don't know.
Aldo will look it up for us. But it's like different things. It's like wood, it's glass, it's paper. You have to give somebody a theme based upon that year.
So if you're married for, say, 60 years, is there a theme for every year? Is this list somewhere?
Yeah, you just give them a hello, because at 60 years, you probably are barely even talking. See, it's paper, right? See?
So like origami? This is some wild shit. I'm learning something new every day on this show.
I know that. I'm surprised you know that.
Never heard of it. I've only been married less than a year, so I guess I'm ready to learn at some point, man. Hilarious. Cotton next year. Oh, look at this.
Cotton. As one black guy, I'm not giving you cotton. that sounds racist.
I'm not getting you cotton, Ross. That's not happening. But we'll make it rain this weekend, I guess, for our 1 year anniversary in honor of the paper. Hilarity aside, let's dive into it. Let's talk about the Bears to begin the programming here. And Ross, you were talking about a potential trade down with Pittsburgh. You floated that out there, and where the Bears sit right now, I think everybody is certainly still in the mindset. We're talking in the pre-show about the Bears' glaring need to bolster this offensive line and think about the future for Justin Fields and this great young wide receiving core that they have, and keep paving lanes for the running game, which was best in the NFL last year. So it looks like a tackle for sure. But you were talking about this potential trade with Pittsburgh. Paint us the scenario, will you?
Yeah, I mean, listen, there's a lot of rumors out there, and there are a lot of rumors out there from some people in the know that potentially the Pittsburgh Steelers would want to move up into the draft. They also covet a offensive tackle, somebody that they're going to be able to maybe put around Kenny Pickett. As you know, they also have been the wide receiver team the last couple of years. They drafted Pickens last year, but then they traded Claypool. They have Deontay Johnson that they just paid last year, but maybe that's a spot for a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigma or Quentin Johnson or something like that. But it sounds like the Steelers want to move up. I think that they want to move up to get one of those offensive tackles, and it's likely probably a guy like Paris Jones Jr. or Broderick Jones, or they might even like a guy. I can see them looking for a guy like Peter Skoronski. But their offensive line is a mess. It's been a mess for years since Big Ben was there, who I got a bone to pick with this today. Ever since Big Ben was there, and they need to solidify that offensive line, a lot more. And if they want to move up, they certainly can. They would put their mid-round pick on the table that they have at number 17, and they would probably, as ironically as it sounds, give number 32 back to the Chicago Bears. Right? We gave them that 32 overall pick for the Chase Claypool deal, and listen. Ryan Poles has preached about trying to get value in this draft and trying to stockpile picks. The Bears have a lot of holes, but one of these tackles that we're going to talk about in a minute, I think there's a guy that he might like that might still be there at 17. And if you can move back a little bit and still get your guy at 17 and then add yet another second round pick, that sounds like a home run to me for the Bears.
Interesting. And I know you talked about it. Certainly a guy whose stock has risen up is Darnell Wright. If it was to stay that way, it's interesting to think about, from that trade perspective, you thought of the Bears again making a move at this point, just not content to maybe pick 9th overall, but maybe get a couple picks in that first round because there's a lot of needs too. You look at the skill positions, and I'm just looking at around the league, how there have been so many mocks at this point. The Bears potentially looking at a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba, who I know the Bears are going to meet with. And I know Justin Fields, former teammate, and he's the best wide receiver out there. Hard to pass up. If you're at 9, there's going to be some tough decisions, obviously, to be made, not only at the tackle position, if you were to go that route, because a large part of the NFL population thinks that it's going to be Paris Johnson Jr. For the Chicago Bears or Skoronski, one of these guys. There's certainly a chance that, they might even, if you look at Bijan Robinson and the way that he has been hyped up at this point, and you could swing at a guy like this, and then potentially, if you get that pick, maybe make a trade after the fact, maybe he doesn't remain a Chicago Bear, you can continue to stockpile picks, and that's what Ryan Poles has shown the ability to do at this point. It looks like really the overwhelming consensus would be an offensive tackle, whether it be Paris Johnson Jr. or one of these other great young tackles out there like Skoronski and Broderick Jones, like we mentioned. But part of me does want that edge rusher, right, to come out in that first round. And I know it's deep, and the Bears do have those second round picks, so it'll be interesting to see which way they go then too. If they go strictly defense after drafting maybe a tackle, there's just so many ways that this could play out, right, Ross?
There is. And, I think that regardless of where the Bears draft in the first round, I think this is going to be the 1 year anniversary, as it all comes full circle for us, gift from Ryan Poles to Justin Fields in the form of an offensive player, whether that is in a offensive lineman or potentially a wide receiver. And I think that Both positions could be in play either at 9 or let's say they trade down at 17, right? Now you're looking at like maybe Jordan Addison range or Zay Flowers or something like that, one of those wide receivers that are going to be probably still on the board after a guy like Quentin Johnson and Jackson Smith and Jigma are gone, right? But I keep circling, and then after that, I think that Poles says, okay, now I need to appease my head coach again. We found two very solid football players in the second round last year on the defensive side of the ball, and Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker. Let's go back in there again for the second round, and I think the Bears will double dip and really beef up that front seven, which needs a lot of help right now. But this draft is very deep on the defensive line and at the edge rushing position. So I think if the Bears want to wait and address that in rounds 2, I certainly can. I think they'll swing back around after that and probably look for another interior lineman, probably a center, because that center position is really thin right now. I don't trust Lucas Patrick long term to hold up as a starting center. But I do think that the first round pick will be an offensive player. Then they're going to go heavy defense back to back and then probably circle back to offense again.
Yeah, you talked about Lucas Patrick, who was injured for a bit of last season too, and getting up there in age, there'd be something to be said for building this line for years to come, right? And against the tough competition of the NFC North right now, when you have Detroit and the Vikings leading the way, have good protection for their quarterbacks and good running games there. Who do you want to draft? What do you want the Bears to do? Remember, you can chime in the comment section. If you're watching live on YouTube, you can interact with us on Twitter as well. I agree with Ross. I think that offensive line certainly needs to be addressed in the first round, whether they try to make a trade or not. And you talked about the sort of risers and fallers at this point, Ross, in your stock up, stock down segment. So have you seen movement there? I know you're liking Darnell Wright. Have other guys fallen at all? What are you thinking?
Yeah, last week I had Jackson Smith and Jigma sneak in there at the 9th overall. The more that you kind of look at things and see things, I just don't think that he's going to be an option for them at 9th overall. I really think there's going to be offensive linemen at that position. I still have Paris Johnson Jr. as the number 1 pick for them, just because I think that he is the most polished player. Obviously, comes from the same school as Justin Fields. There's a little bit of a relationship there with them. But the newcomer is not Broderick Jones, is Darnell Wright, because you start to read the tea leaves a little bit. The Bears have had a couple visits with him. The Bears were able to meet with him at the Senior Bowl, and he wowed everybody. He impressed everybody. He's a massive human being. Obviously, we see the stats here on the board, 6'5", 333 pounds. But when you look at him, when you put the tape on him, he's going to be a guy that can anchor the right side of your offensive line, which is the side that you're going to want to run a ton towards. You want to run. They want to stay run heavy, right? You want to run the football towards his side. He plays with a nastiness that not any other offensive lineman in this draft plays with. And I think that's a guy that Ryan Poles covets. I think when you hear him, remember, former offensive lineman, I think he wants nasty guys who want to bury people into the ground. And you put the tape on for Darnell Wright, that's exactly what he does. So Paris might be the most polished player in the draft, right? Left tackle side of things. And then Broderick Jones is probably the best athlete in the draft. He might have the best upside. But I think Darnell Wright is the most consistent guy. And I think that if they really like Braxton Jones, like they say they do, and they want him to grow into that left tackle position, boy, you put those guys on bookends, the left side, the right side, you've got 2 tackles theoretically, right, for the next 10 years. And that could be a lot of fun. So as it stands right now, I think Darnell Wright is a really good option. And I think that if Ryan Poles thinks that he can get him a little bit later, right, you figure quarterbacks are probably going to go 1 through 4 in this draft. Like, it just looks like that's going to happen. Somebody's going to trade up, and somebody's going to go get Anthony Richardson. Somebody's going to overvalue Will Levi, and they're going to go up and get him. Like, these quarterbacks are going to go 1 through 4. We've just seen it. It's too much of a quarterback-heavy league for that not to happen. Then a couple of defensive guys going off the board, the corners, 2 corners, right? Weatherspoon, the kid from Gonzalez. Then you're looking at a guy like Will Anderson, potentially Jalen Carter, and then like a tackle like some of these tackles are going to get pushed down in the draft. And I really think that Darnell Wright will be one. If you can get him maybe potentially at 17 and then swing back around at 32 and get a wide receiver or get the edge rusher like you're looking for, that's awesome. Now you're cooking with gas.
Yeah, Jackson Smith and Jigma just seems like it doesn't really fit with what Ryan Poles is trying to do. After you filled a huge need in DJ Moore, you just spend that 9th overall pick on, I mean, the top wide receiver by all stretches, but it's just a interesting take as far as the best player available at that portion. But back to you were talking about Darnell Wright and his size and what he brings to the table and how he played very well against the likes of Will Anderson Jr. and BJ Ojolari. And you look at the tape of this guy and he's physical, and that's what you need. You need a mean guy who's up there with, I think Tevin Jenkins is in that mold too, and Braxton Jones. So it can set the tone when you get a guy like that on that line coming from Tennessee. His stock has been rising, so I wouldn't be mad at him or Paris Johnson Jr. at this point. Ross, with the skill position players, I know that we talked about Robinson sitting there and the other Bears needs in the second round. Are there some other names that you have in mind as far as maybe running back or wide receiver, even if they try to, they're already pretty set at tight end. Obviously, the Bears always seem to have 2-3 top quality tight ends who can pass block and run block and do it all. But yeah, we're looking specifically at gadget wide receivers or, someone to play alongside Khalil Herbert, spell him, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, running backs, I don't think that, especially after signing Deontay Foreman, they might take a running back that early in the draft. I think potentially maybe 4th round in there. But I keep circling back to Jordan Addison, who it seems like right now he's going to slip out of the 1st round. That's a very strong possibility. But this kid can play football. And listen, he caught passes from the guy that will be the number 1 pick overall next year in Caleb Williams at USC, but he's a good route runner. He doesn't have top blown off speed, but guess what? This guy just gets open and he is a good route runner. He's able to just has a nose for the football, makes tough catches the ball in traffic, and he's good running after the catch. So you look at the Bears already, right? Big body receiver in DJ Moore, kind of a guy that can blow the top off the field in Darnell Mooney. And then you got Chase Claypool, who's kind of like, which one is he? He's kind of like a hybrid of both. But if you're able to bring a guy like Jordan Addison to that situation, number one, the more weapons you can have around Justin Fields, the better, right? That's all we're looking for. Yeah. But it puts a lot of fire underneath guys like Mooney and Claypool. And, both of them have to get paid soon, right? And Ryan Poles can sit there and say, I don't have to pay both of you guys. One of you guys are going to have to fight it out this year and let me know which one you want me to pay. Because, listen, we look around the league, receivers are expensive. Odell Beckham Jr. just got $15 million guaranteed, and he's coming off his 2nd ACL tear, and he's approaching 30 years old, right? These guys are increasingly getting expensive. It's why the DJ Moore deal is such a great deal. I also like Jalen Hyatt a lot. Jalen Hyatt is the wide receiver from Tennessee. He's more of like that gadget guy. He was Herndon Hooker's number 1 guy. I think he'll be there at the start of the 2nd round or maybe the back end of the 1st round. So those are 2 guys that I like a lot that could, potentially the Bears do get that 32nd overall pick that they can take.
There's a lot of talent coming in that 2nd round too. Just talking about that aspect of the draft in day 2, where the Bears, if perhaps they don't go tackle overall at 9th overall, that is, then maybe they look in the 2nd round, and it's pretty deep at that position. But look at edge rusher too, and you could get a guy like BJ Ojolari from LSU. Looking at running back, we talked about that. There's Byron Young from Tennessee, who played opposite Jones, we were talking about, and there's a ton of depth. So day 2 should be very fun. I will say too, and I've been looking at everybody's stock rising and falling, and I feel like Will Anderson's stock has kind of fallen for whatever reason. The great Alabama standout who looked like maybe a number 1 overall pick for a while there until the quarterbacks, of course, came to the combine, and it's very quarterback centric league, as we know. But if he's at 9th, Ross, do you really look at that position, especially with your scenario with 4 quarterbacks going before the Bears pick? I think that's the dream scenario for them. So they have that potential to pick that best player available, you consider that?
Yeah, listen, if Will Anderson is sitting there at 9, I think you have to run up there and send that card in and take him. Just because he is the most complete defensive player in this draft. He is the best edge rusher. And in this league, it's a quarterback happy league, it's a pass happy league. You need two things, right? You need one guy to protect the quarterback, but then you also need a guy that's going to be able to attack the quarterback. And you look at that division, you saw what Hutchinson did to the Bears last year, and how dynamic he was at the end of the season there. And you start to look around the division and the conference. You see what the Eagles did last year, getting to the Super Bowl, most sacks as a defensive line of all time, right? How helpful was that to a guy like Jalen Hurts last year? Micah Parsons and kind of the dynamic football player he's turned into. If for some reason Will Anderson is there, I'm certainly at 9, I will 100% take him and figure out the rest of the draft going forward, right? But they're also, you hit it on the head. There are guys that are going to be there, in that second round that are also good rushers. Like Derek Hall is a guy from Auburn. He's a good edge rusher. I like also, forgive me, I'm not going to pronounce his name. I will try. Felix Nduke Azuma, I think is how I say it. But he's a really fun edge rusher as well. And then even like later in the draft, in the second round, like Will McDonald and Andre Carter will be there too. It's funny you mentioned something though about tight end. It would not shock me if Ryan Poles somehow, some way drafted Sam Laporta. If he were able to start to slide a little bit, the Iowa tight end, he's got 6'3", he's 245 pounds. He is a pure route runner, and he could go old school New England Patriots, back when Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski were on the field, and try and put two tight end weapons out there and say to defenses, try and stop this now.
Wow, that would be something. Obviously Iowa's churning out the best tight ends you can think of in the league with Kittle and Hawkinson and the like. And and already when you have Cole Kmet, who's one of the best up and coming tight ends, and then to boot, of course, you have Bobby Tunyon out there as well. So there's a lot to dissect as we're getting 2 weeks away from the draft, and anything is possible. But other NFL headlines, as we were talking here, breaking news that the Commanders are going to be sold. There's a preliminary agreement to Josh Harris's group from the Snyders for about $6 billion. And we know it was a long time coming with Dan Snyder selling the team. But, man, the Commanders going to be in new hands. And I think that Washington fans are pretty psyched that this is finally happening for them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I mean, to put it frank, Dan Snyder's a piece of shit.
Yes.
So, he's a piece of shit. He's not a good person. That whole Commanders situation has been a disaster. The stadium was a disaster. Remember, it like flooded and sewage and stuff a couple of years ago, and something fell down and almost collapsed on a player. And it took them forever to change the name, despite the fact that people from that nationality were telling you they were offended by it. And then I love that quote. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. And on top of all that, he just hasn't put a good product on the football field. He hasn't done a good thing. And so, you start to look at they're basically turning into the underneath his tenure, they're basically the football's version of the Clippers. And we saw what happened with Donald Sterling, right, a couple of years ago, and he was forced to sell his team, right? And the Clippers, for all intents and purposes, are better off under Steve Ballmer. So I love the DMV area. It's an area that I went to, near to college near at. I got a lot of Commanders fans in my life. They are ecstatic about this today, so I'm happy for them. But it's like they just need a whole overhaul. They need a brand new stadium there. They need a whole new vibe there. And so they need to clean house, get a person that knows analytics and that knows how to run organizations in there. Obviously, the new ownership, he comes from the owning the 76ers and also the New Jersey Devils. He's got a good pedigree right now. So congrats to Commanders fans. I know they've been asking for this for a long time now. I wish them nothing but luck and success going forward. And Dan Snyder, hit the bricks, man. And listen, he's fine. He got $6 billion out of this, right? So he's fine.
Absolutely. And Washington, first of all, certainly needs a quarterback. You figure that they'll kind
Mhm.
of take the mold of what Denver did when they changed ownership and go ahead and Ron Rivera on his way out and then they're addressing those two big needs. And I'm wondering where that will come from. And we saw finally too that the OBJ sweepstakes came to an end and went
Yeah.
to the Baltimore Ravens. And how
Mhm.
about it? Lamar Jackson may not be happy with a franchise tag, but he'd be pretty psyched about having an OBJ there. I think he should have some good success there with the rest of those skill position players around him, right, Ross?
He should. And I mean, you saw them, they were partying in the club. Him and Lamar Jackson were partying in the club last
And
week, right?
turn.
So,
Yeah.
even Lamar Jackson said a couple weeks ago, I'm out, I'm gone, I'm not coming back here. I don't think Odell Beckham Jr. signs that contract with them if he doesn't think that Lamar Jackson is coming back, which makes me feel like somehow, some way, the Ravens and Lamar are going to be able to work this out. And if they do, that's a great pickup for Lamar. I'm a huge Lamar Jackson fan. I think that he gets a ton of unwarranted, unnecessary shit, very similar to Justin Fields, because people don't, they're so blinded by their running ability that they don't see that these guys are actually good quarterbacks and good throwers. Nobody has completed more passes from the pocket and thrown more touchdowns from the pocket and throw for more yards from the pocket over the last couple of years than a guy like Lamar Jackson, right? He is on that list with Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers and so on and so forth. Just because you don't like the way he does it doesn't mean that he still hasn't done it. And the stats and analytics back that up. So I do hope that he's able to work that out there, because that's similar to the area, DMV area, right? It's really fun to have Baltimore, to have Lamar Jackson in Baltimore. And I just don't know where else he's going to go that he's going to have that good of a football team. Because if he comes back to the Ravens next year with that defense and Odell Beckham Jr. and that running game, Ravens are tough, man. That's a tough team that you're going to have to beat in that AFC North.
Are you a little surprised that OBJ got that money, the $18 million? He got the bag.
I think so. I'm surprised. But then you start to look at, it's a little bit of NFL GM chicanery. They added on 4 void years to the contract, so they kind of spread out the money a little bit. So Odell Beckham is going to get his $15 million, but he's going to get it Bobby Bonilla style. It's going to just be sprinkled in every now and then over a couple of years. I'm surprised that the Jets didn't match that, because I think that if you are trying to complete this Aaron Rodgers deal at some point, it's been going on forever. I think that he would have been the perfect weapon for Aaron Rodgers in New York. Odell is a guy that's used to playing in New York. Obviously, these guys won a Super Bowl in LA. He's used to that limelight. I think he would have came in there and really lit it up. So I think the Jets really dropped the bag on that one.
Interesting. Let's move on from the NFL, Ross. Let's talk about the Chicago Bulls and how they won last night in pretty incredible fashion. They beat the Raptors in a comeback win. They were down by 19 at one point. They won 109, 105. They stunned Toronto on their home court. The refs and Drake be damned. Where was Drake? They had Oakley there, but I don't know where Drake was.
Yeah, I guess he doesn't show up for playing games, right? Only Eastern Conference Championship games.
They could have used him there. He would have talked to DeMar DeRozan's daughter.
Yeah.
But it was a great second half effort from the Bulls, where it looked pretty typical of the Chicago Bulls team, where they were getting handled. They didn't have an answer for Pascal Siakam, who was just causing problems for them throughout the game. Fred VanVleet made 7 threes. He shot 13 threes, but made 7 of them. Pretty incredible effort from them. And Scotty Barnes was able to do his thing. OG Anunoby was able to do his thing. DeMar DeRozan had that chip on his shoulder against his former team. He poured in 23 points. A really efficient night, shooting about 50% on the floor. It was very typical of the mid-range god. But it was really about Zach LaVine, right, Ross? Where we've seen him play his best basketball over this past month or so. And as much as you don't really want them to be in this position in the play-in tournament, because it doesn't really do much for the future, you still think this is the player you paid this max money for, right? When you go and see him go off, you take the 9 points in the first half away, and the way he goes ahead and ends with 39, he was just making everything in that second half he wanted to. Part of me just held my breath every time. Of course, he would go up just dribble to the 3-point line and just chuck these shots up. But I mean, he had a great night. He just wasn't missing. Again, shooting over 50%. The threes when you needed them in that second half, and the big plays when you needed them too. What's really important as a team to remember of how they beat the Raptors too is that defense, right? Where Caruso, who is one of the best defensive players out there, really locked down Patrick Williams, who doesn't have that huge effect offensively. He was really doing well defensively. And of course, we know what Patrick Beverley can do in transition defense and just putting the pressure on any guy he's guarding. In that case, he was playing Siakam really well. It was a great effort from this Bulls team, and Billy Donovan can be proud of that. And now it earns them a spot to play for the 8 overall seed against Miami tomorrow night. So what'd you make of all this, Ross?
Yeah, to me, the biggest takeaway is, like you said, it's Zach LaVine. And, ever since that Paris game that they had, he's been absolutely on fire. He's been playing at an elite level. He's been playing at an all-star level. And it's what we've been asking for. Right? It's what we've been wanting to see. I don't think he was healthy to start the year coming off of that knee injury that he had last season. I think he finally got healthy. But, listen, this is 20-something-year-old players that can have that kind of offensive capability for a game, shoot the three and drive and hit their free throws and stuff like that. Those guys don't just grow on trees. And so I know, Zach was given a lot of shit for getting that max contract and people were upset, but he has lived up to it ever since that Paris game in January. And most importantly, I think the Bulls as a team realized that going forward, if you're going to make any noise in the playoffs and the season and your foundation going forward, it has to be on the back of Zach LaVine. He's too young. He's too talented. He is your max guy. He's the guy that has to be the focal point of this offense going forward. As much as I love DeMar DeRozan, you can start to see that age is catching up to him. He's in his, he's like 33 years old. You can tell the legs are going out a little bit, towards the end of the season here. He just doesn't have that ability. And listen, credit to Lamar. Even yesterday, he stepped out the way and he let Zach cook, right? And he let Zach cook in the city and against the team that DeMar knows very well. And DeMar easily could have said, I'm going to take over this game and try and play hero ball. So I think DeMar DeRozan gets it. It'd be interesting to see what this team looks like next year, because in my opinion, I've been preaching about this for months now. If I were the Bulls, I would put shooters around Zach LaVine and allow him to dribble, drive, and kick and do his thing. I think he's a capable playmaker if you put shooters around him and get these big ass, lurking bigs out of the paint. I love Vucevic, but he is too slow and unathletic and takes up too much space around the paint. So he has to stand out in the 3-point line. I want younger, athletic bigs who can move, who can rim protect, who can rebound, and also can maybe occasionally step out and shoot the three. So the Bulls have to retool their roster a little bit, and in my opinion, needs to be around number 8, because as we saw last night, he goes on the heater like that. There's not too many guys in the league that are going to stay up. They're going to be able to stick with him.
Vucevic, very frustrating to watch throughout that game for me. He gets his double-doubles without blink of an eye, but just watching him, it just seemed like he would fuck up spacing repeatedly and always calling for the ball, and the Bulls players just not trying to pass to him at that point. I mean, again, double-double, I guess he's collected some big rebounds, but that's all you're getting from your big guy, your third of the big three in this situation between DeRozan, LaVine, and Vucevic. You look like the Bulls would certainly want to let go of him, but looking into this next game against the Heat, you're going to need him to bring it. You're going to need this backcourt to play as well as they did. Credit to the bench, of course, too. When you look at Kobe White and how well he played, you didn't see a lot of Ayo Dosunmu. You wonder if he would be playing a little bit more minutes. Surprising, but Caruso, not a huge impact offensively, but what you signed him for is that defensive presence, and he was really great in that aspect, and he poured in a couple assists as well. Just really that guy who has reckless abandonment for his body. It was impressive, but the real MVP was DeMar DeRozan's daughter, who was screeching throughout the game, caused the Raptors to shoot 50% at the line. These are professional basketball players. These are the best in the world, and this I don't know, 11-year-old girl, 10-year-old girl, I don't know how old she is, was
Yeah, she's
screaming
9.
behind the basket. She's 9?
She's
Even
9.
better. Yeah.
Little Dia DeRozan.
DR DeRozan just screaming her head off. It was hysterical. And of course, ESPN finally picked it up, and they would have the side by side and seeing guys like Siakam miss and all these Raptors players when they were making big shot after big shot. If she's not there, they probably don't win this game, right? Because it was so close. It was a 4-point game. It's pretty incredible.
It's so awesome. It's cool to see. Look at how stealth she is with it, and she's like timing it perfectly. Look at her. She's I love this so much.
Yeah, the timing.
I love this so much.
Yeah, I mean, we know that DeMar's and there were a lot of good tweets and memes that came out of that too, like my newborn when I put her down for a nap, things like that, and it was incredible. Like a good showing for DeMar, good for him. You know, he's always brings his family to these games, and they always show out, and they're going to need a lot of help when they go up against Miami. I know it was mentioned in the comments too that the Bulls are 3-0 against Miami this season. And Miami, if you watched any of that game the other night when they just got handled by a Hawks team that was pretty middling. I don't get this Heat team when, they're a couple years removed from that bubble, finals that we saw, and Jimmy was playing out of his mind, but there's something's missing here. I know they got Kyle Lowry, but it doesn't look like the chemistry is completely there for the Heat between Butler and Adebayo. I don't know what was happening in that game, but I like the Bulls' chances going into Miami and potentially getting this 8 seed.
I do too. I think the Bulls match up really well with Miami. Listen, Miami's old. That's the really biggest thing is Jimmy Butler is a very physical basketball player. He's got a lot of miles on his tires. He misses 20 to 25 games a year at this point. His legs look flat the other night. And Kyle Lowry is old. They've got like the corpse of Kevin Love on their roster right now. These guys are just really old, and they're not able to do the things that they do anymore. I'm a big Bam Adebayo fan. That was one of the worst games that I've seen him play in a long time the other night. But I think that Miami as itself as a roster, the run that they've had with this team, and they had a great run. They took it all the way to that bubble NBA Finals, which they almost beat the Lakers, right? They were on the brink there. They took out this young Celtics team that is now an NBA championship caliber team. But I think that Miami team is done. I think after this season, there are going to be a couple teams in the NBA. They're going to blow some things up and look very different. I think Miami is one of them. I think the Bulls saw a team last night. That's going to be another one in the Toronto Raptors. I think that team's going to blow up a lot of their guys. So I fully expect the Bulls to go in there tomorrow night and to be able to put points up on this Miami Heat team, but also be able to shut them down defensively and move forward to Milwaukee. That is a whole different story right there, because you're running into the Greek beast, the Greek freak, and that Milwaukee team. If they don't get to the NBA Finals, I will be shocked and appalled. Let's just say that.
I certainly would be too. And we're going to talk about our finals projections and all that shortly here as the rest of the playoffs will start later this weekend. But as far as another game here, a lot of this plays into momentum, and the Bulls have that confidence right now where they went into the Raptors stadium and they were able to the arena and they were able to do their thing and to come from behind like that says a lot. And they're certainly not going to want to play in that situation where they're coming from behind. But if Zach LaVine and DeRozan can play that well and have a somewhat better performance from not only the bench, but Vucevic and these other guys, then they could certainly get that 8th seed. And Milwaukee, that's the toughest draw, obviously, right? They're number 1 seed for a reason. They're just incredible. They went on 10-game win streaks, 12-game win streaks this season. And Giannis is just this transcendent player. It's just, it doesn't serve the Bulls to get that 8th seed, right? It's not like they're most likely going to knock off the Bucks, but you see what you have, especially in this backcourt where, Lonzo Ball was supposed to be this big piece that would help the Bulls defensively and offensively and help them get this together and turn this franchise around. But a guy like Vooch, whose contract is up next year, you got to figure out what to do with him as well. But it all goes down tomorrow night against Miami. Who do you like? You like the Bulls?
I like the Bulls tomorrow night. Absolutely. I think the Bulls will win that game. Like I said, I think this is a good matchup with them. They've won, the regular season series. And I think the Bulls have been playing much better basketball the last 2 months where the Heat have not. And I fully expect them to win this game. And I think that makes game one of the 1 versus 8 probably be Monday. I think that will shape up to be a Monday, which means we'll get 2 home games in Chicago probably by next weekend.
Yeah, it'd be something to watch. And the rest of these play-in games have been pretty exciting to watch as well. Sunday, I should say. That would be the first game against the Bucks. And then, like I said, the Heat playing the Bulls tomorrow, hosting the Bulls. But if you watched the Thunder game last night, that was really exciting as well. And one of the best young players out there, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, played his ass off. It was a game I fell asleep to, but he was really playing well, of course. And that's a sneaky good Thunder team, right? Where they, we're middle of the road record, and it's been a while since they've had that sort of success where you saw, when Kevin Durant was there and Westbrook and Harden, of course. So it's kind of just been treading water until this comes along. And then on the opposite end, playing New Orleans, Brandon Ingram had to carry a lot of that load without Zion Williamson. And what a turnaround for this Pelicans team that showed a lot of promise when Zion was playing earlier this season, but it's just setback after setback. And you don't know what's going to happen as far as that's concerned. But it was those two really dueling down the stretch, and a tough end for the Pelicans, not what they wanted. But you look at Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and this team playing Minnesota. Minnesota, man, just blew that game against the Lakers when they had them right where they wanted. And that was just it looked a lot like the Raptors last night, just crumbling. The Timberwolves led by something like 20 at one point as well. Credit to the Lakers clawing back, and you figured LeBron and company, that's exactly what they wanted. But yeah, have you enjoyed the play-in? Is it sort of growing on you to an extent? The rest of it?
I don't mind it. Those were two good basketball games. We didn't even talk about Rudy Gobert punching a teammate from Sunday night.
He's eligible tomorrow. Yeah,
he's going to play tomorrow. Which it's a bad matchup for him.
Awkward.
The Thunder play a lot of positionless basketball. I don't mind it. It's fun. It's weird. Like none of these statistics they don't even count. So like whatever Zach LaVine yesterday is technically like not a playoff statistic. It's just really weird. But I get it. The NBA is out there trying to get some more money, get a couple dollars. So it's fine. I want the real thing to start though. I'm really excited for the game starting on Saturday. We get a whole awesome slate of games starting at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And then the nightcap is the one I'm looking for. Kings Warriors. And that is going to be let's just say the over-under for that game already is set at 238 points. And I think we might get the over for that one. You're going to see an onslaught of points. Kings led the league this year in offense. We know what the Warriors can do. They're getting Andrew Wiggins back. He hasn't played in nearly 3 months. He's going to play on game one this Saturday. And so that's a battle of California cities, not named LA or Sacramento or Sacramento, not named LA or San Francisco. Excuse me. Technically, the Warriors are in Oakland, and then Sacramento is just a little bit north, right, of Oakland, if I have my geography correct. So that's going to be a very fun series. I'm looking forward to that one.
Look at all 4 California NBA teams making the playoffs, with the Lakers making that play-in game. I should say winning that play-in game, and now look at them. They're ready to play. And LeBron's old ass, of course, gets his rest until Sunday, and when they're going to face off against Memphis. Yeah, that whole Rudy Gobert situation, it just, for the guy you paid so much money for and to get into it with Kyle Anderson, and for them to suspend him for that game, I probably could have used him certainly down the stretch there, but I don't think I've seen a team collapse like Minnesota has in a long time. Looked just completely fucking out of place. There was like a 7-minute span where they didn't make a basket. It was just atrocious. Whereas Karl Anthony Towns had been making everything throughout that earlier portion of the game and spreading the ball around. They just came to a grinding halt. And the Lakers, look at them being a pretty dangerous 7 seed against the young Grizzlies team, who was one of those favorites to come out of the West. But in the overall picture, we like the Nuggets and the Suns, certainly with KD, they're a favorite to outright win the West. They'll probably just go right past the Clippers. All due respect to Kawhi and company over there, but the Bucks we talked about at length, and whoever they play is in for a buzzsaw. Like the Celtics in the East, that young Cavs team is good, but the Warriors can't sleep on them, especially when they're going to get healthy right now. If you got to pick a finals, what do you got, Ross? Who do you like? What two teams?
I definitely have the Bucks out of the Eastern Conference. I just don't think that anybody there can match up with Giannis Antetokounmpo. I think they're the best defensive team in the East, led by Drew Holiday. They've got Brook Lopez, who is a Defensive of the Year candidate. Bobby Portis comes off the bench, former Bull. He's a Sixth Man of the Year candidate. They're just too deep, I think, for anybody to match up with them. And I don't know who's going to be able to slow down Giannis in the playoffs. The West is more intriguing. The West is wide open. Technically, the Nuggets are the favorites, but their style of basketball in the playoffs does not really suit well to me. You cannot rule out Kevin Durant and the Suns. The Suns have not lost a game that Kevin Durant has played with them since they acquired him, so that's a scary thing. But I'm actually going to pick the Golden State Warriors because I think that this is the defending champs. I think that those guys are looking for, this is not quite their last dance, but it's getting close to it. But I think getting Andrew Wiggins back changes the complexion of everything for that team. And it's really tough for me to bet against Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, who's been playing very well. Draymond Green has secretly another really good season. And you put Wiggins back in that situation, and boy, it just changes the whole complexion of what they're able to do. And they've done it before. Right. So give me the team that's been there before. Remember, they kicked it in the high gear last year and nobody thought that they can do it. I fully expect for them to be able to go on the road and take out some of these teams. It just takes a few stuff heaters. That's something that we've seen a bazillion times at this point, right?
Sure. And Klay Thompson has been playing out of his mind. One of the best seasons we've seen from him, and between him and Steph, those are two of the best shooting. Obviously Steph, just one of the best shooters of all time, both of them. It's just been nuts to watch. And then Wiggins is going to have to hit the ground running. You talk about him missing pretty much all of this season to come back at this time. That's still like we talked about. That's going to be a tough series with the Kings, who haven't been to the playoffs in God knows how long. They're hosting the Warriors 7:30 on ABC on Saturday night. As far as my prediction out of the East, I know you got to give a lot of credit to the Bucks, of course, having been there before, but that team that can get over the hump, I'm not talking Celtics, it's the 76ers. And it looks like Embiid should be the MVP this year, has been leading the way. And you look at those close games against the other powers of the East, against the Celtics and against the Bucks. They played them really closely, and I know most recently they lost to the Bucks in pretty sound fashion. But those games against the Celtics have been pretty fun to watch. And James Harden, he might be that difference maker, right? It's at this point where you got to figure these stars will show out. And to that end, out of the West, I do like the Suns. It's the big asterisk with Kevin Durant, right? And it would be a hell of a series to watch the Suns and the Warriors match up. And then on the other side, if you see Sixers, Bucks, that would be an incredible Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals. Embiid, you talk about these teams, again, the chemistry and their coaching, Doc Rivers trying to get them over the hump. That's huge. A lot of credit to Chris Paul and the way that Suns team is compiled, though, man. So I would go Suns and Sixers at this point if I was to go with the finals.
I like it. I love playoff basketball. I love playoff basketball because it lets you know that summer is along, on the around the way too. And I love having that 80-degree weather and throw a little something on the grill and then crack a beer and then actually watch like a meaningful playoff game. That's awesome. So I can't wait for it to get started this weekend. We even got a big fight on Saturday, right? Javonte Davis is fighting on Saturday night. So sports
against Ryan Garcia, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Sports is kicking off. We got a good sports weekend ahead of us.
We do. MMA. I mean, look at last week, man. That was pretty insane. Matchups there. But as far as boxing is concerned, we're waiting for that next big heavyweight fight. But this Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis fight should be something else. wrapping up here. And do you like Embiid as far as MVP goes? I know that we talk about, he's the scoring leader, and that doesn't do everything. Certainly, I feel like some people are arguing for some reason that, you don't want Jokic to win for whatever reason because it taints the award or whatever. But between Embiid and excuse me, Jokic and then Luka Doncic, you could put up there. I think it would be Embiid or Jokic or Giannis, I suppose you could put up there, but it's got to be Embiid, nobody else at this point, right?
Yeah, I think Embiid stepped up the last couple months, and he took that trophy away from Jokic. Jokic had it for a long time, and I think the criticism for Jokic was silly. We've seen guys the likes of Larry Bird and Michael Jordan, win 3 in a row and stuff like that. He was having that good of a year, and he kind of fell off a little bit, and Embiid came up and took it. I still think that even with both those guys having their MVPs, I would pick Giannis Antetokounmpo as the best player in the game right now anyway, and so it goes back to show you, like, is it the best player of the league award? Is it the MVP award? Like, where do you play? It reminds me of when Karl Malone won 2, back-to-back MVPs, but Michael Jordan was the best player on the planet and beat his ass twice in the NBA Finals, So I think that people go with narrative sometimes and get a little bored with these kind of awards, and they find a new way to talk themselves out of a player. But Joel Embiid is worthy. This guy's battled his ass off. This guy's a top overall pick for the 76ers. He's a part of the process, right? Then he had the injury. He's had multiple injuries in his career. And the way he's been able to solidify that situation there through the Markelle Fultz stuff and the Ben Simmons stuff and James Harden and this and that and Doc Rivers and stuff. And he's part of the tanking. It'd be cool to get him to see that award. He's very deserving of it. Another foreign player, too. Another foreign player gets an award.
Right. And then circling back to the finals, the 76ers get there and then, of course, lose because Philly is cursed right now, just like the Eagles and the Phillies losing in the big games. That would be just devastating for my Philly fam out there. Ross, wrapping up here. I know we're neither of us are the biggest hockey fans in the world, but we got to tip our hats to Jonathan Toews playing his last game in a Blackhawks uniform tonight. And I mean, obviously, what can you say we just said goodbye to Patrick Kane just weeks ago, and now to see the captain gone is playing in his last game. It just sucks because the abyss is here for the Hawks for foreseeable future, but helping win them 3 cups and just being one of the best hockey players on the planet, just a job well done. And wherever you start to finish out your career, I mean, obviously you're retiring him and Kane's numbers right next to each other at the United Center very soon, I would think.
He should go down in history as one of the 20 best Chicago athletes of all time. He was that important. He was that good. Very stoic individual on and off the ice. Great leader. Those cup runs were fun in Chicago. Everybody had a blast. He's had the health stuff over the last year, the long COVID and stuff like that. I hope he gets everything that's coming to him tonight with all the fanfare and applause and love in United Center. And like you said, they're going to put 19 in the rafters at United Center. You'll never be able to wear that jersey again. This guy's going to be a legend in this city as long as he's still alive. So, he's an amazing player, an amazing guy. And it's cool to at least see him take one more ride in a Hawks jersey. And I selfishly hope, I don't want to ever say a guy's career should be over, but I selfishly hope he doesn't ever put on another jersey again. I don't want to see him play for, I don't know, another team, Toronto or something like that. I hope that this is it for him and he can stay, he can retire forever as a Blackhawk and just, live life and have a blast with his family.
Yeah, I think that it was the same with Kane, where to see him in a Rangers jersey is just so weird. It would be just, it would not be in good taste. I saw Jonathan Toews on the street once and yelled at him. He did not wave back.
Yeah,
They're showing clips of that the Winter Classic game where,
very stoic guy.
Yeah, it's the same. So what else, Ross? As we finish up, your White Sox is not looking good. All these injuries stacking up, and it's not even 10 games into the season. What the hell is happening, Tim?
Yeah, the injuries are tough right now, which it seems to be a common thread, a common theme every year for the White Sox. So Hopefully they can get healthy here soon. They're going to have to tread water for a few weeks until they get guys back out there. Tim Anderson, Eloy Jimenez, Yoan Moncada, so on and so forth. We do this every single year. So, every year you feel like this is going to be a very impactful, fun year, and we go through this. So I hope it all gets better. But speaking of being out of it, you a Succession guy? Did you watch Succession on Sunday?
Yeah, I did. Spoiler alert to those who didn't, but quite an end to the great Logan Roy. There was like a fake obituary in the LA Times, I think, that they ran for him too. And one of the best characters, certainly in the HBO universe, but in television dramas that we can think of for sure. R.I.P. to Logan Roy. And I just try to channel him whenever I say "fuck off."
And one of the best episodes of TV I've ever seen, like in the last 20 years. It was very well written. It was very well acted. All of the kids in that episode were just amazing, the way they acted that episode. And it makes for a very intriguing last 7 episodes of the series. I mean, it's called Succession for a reason.
There's 7 after this? God damn.
7 left. That was only episode 3 of the last season. So there's 7 left. We need to find out who will be the succession person.
The successor.
And, whoever gets it, they should at the end of it say, "Saddle up your meatloafs." I was told.
Oh, you slid that in there. Yeah. And then we're seeing Snowfall coming to an end in their last season as well. It's a couple episodes left. This is the second to last episode tonight here. Lots of good television going on. You a Ted Lasso guy? We talked about this.
I'm a Ted Lasso guy. I have not started this season yet. I always wait to binge
it. Yeah. Don't want to binge it? That's fair. Fair. Cubs, circling back to baseball, they're doing the usual Cubs things. It's unfortunate.
Yep.
But yeah, we got baseball here. We got our fake summer. I'm all for it.
Man, the weather's been perfect. Hope everybody's getting out there and enjoy it. We're gonna get a little bit of a cool down again. So, but it'll be back. There's nothing better than summertime Chicago. There's no city in the world that is better than summertime Chicago. It's a blast. We're getting this crazy NASCAR race like 6 blocks away from my house, all through downtown Chicago this summer. That's going to be freaking nuts.
These road closures are bananas.
Yes.
Lori's middle finger on the way out. Like, enjoy this.
That's right.
Enjoy this shit show and enjoy all these rednecks.
But circling back, I'm excited for the NFL draft in 2 weeks. It's going to be a very fun night, right? By about this same time, 2 weeks from now, we'll be getting to get the draft going. I think it's a consensus at this point that Bryce Young will be the first overall pick for the Panthers. But then the draft is going to start after that. We don't know what the Texans are going to do. Some people could start saying it's not a foregone conclusion that they're going to take a quarterback at the second overall pick. Maybe they tank this out this year and try and get Caleb Williams next year, right? And they draft a defensive player like Will Anderson or something like that. So I'm excited for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have to talk to Aldo and see what kind of draft coverage we're going to do. I know you and I are even contemplating going down to Soldier Field for the first round that evening. I'm not opposed to that, and maybe doing a little live hit or something like that from there. So we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. And thanks to everybody for chiming in. If we didn't get to your comments, we apologize, but we've appreciated all the input, and thanks for the support over this year with the Barroom Network, of course. And I'm gonna go out and get Ross some paper. And I'll skip the second year. I won't give him cotton. I'll give him perhaps sandalwood.
I want that paper that was in the Spyro notebook, and you tear it and all the little things on the side.
That was fun to mess with. Rip it off. I can do that for you. That sounds cheap and effective. Maybe we'll meet for a beer this weekend. I'll do you one better.
There you go.
Again, thanks to everybody for chiming in. Hit the like and subscribe button. You've been watching live on YouTube. We appreciate it. Watching our beautiful faces ramble on here, and follow us on Twitter. Follow me at The Real Evan Mac. Follow Ross at Ross Reed. You can catch all of our previous episodes on Spotify, on iTunes, wherever you get your audio, your media. Thanks to Aldo for directing, producing all that. And tonight at 8:30 Central Time, it's a mock draft night at the Barroom. Danny, Neal, and Aldo reveal their first and only mock drafts on the new episode of Draft on Tap. Lots of programming to come, a lot of Bears-centric programming to come from the Barroom Network here in the next couple weeks. And yeah, 2 more weeks till the draft. Here we go. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Be good to each other, most of all. And so long, everybody.